Okay. All right. Well, only thing I need from you is a 1, 2, 3 clap.
Okay.
That ties into audio video. My wife does all the magic, and then
Nice.
everything else will flow from there. So
All right.
when you're ready.
1, 2, 3.
Welcome back to the Finding Moments podcast. My name is Wong Lam, and today's very special guest is the founder and the owner of LaneX, Ben Schwarz. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. A few weeks ago, we actually met up at Whole Foods and had
Right.
a really awesome conversation about cars, your life, etc.
Mhm.
Before we dive into your life and LaneX,
Yeah.
how are you doing today?
Pretty good.
Yeah,
Just staying busy.
yeah. How's the family?
Doing great. Yeah. So I have a wife, obviously,
Yeah.
and 2 kids. Maddox is 8 and Evangeline is 5. And she wraps me around her pinky. So like, if you want a pony, let's go get a pony. Things like that. My son's really smart. He's already reading. He's in school and just real proud of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does she want a pony?
Well, if she asked for one,
Okay.
we would start looking probably. That's how just, enamored and whatever you need, let's get it. So,
Yeah. All right, before we take a dive into this podcast, we talked about swag earlier.
Yeah.
Here's a note that, don't read this out loud. It's
Okay.
for my wife and I, but it's for you.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And here's,
Awesome. I love hats.
yeah.
It's great. Awesome.
And that's for
T-shirt.
you as well.
Great. Thank you. I love it.
Absolutely.
great. Let's show this off real quick.
Yeah.
It's great. We'll have to, when we get some swag, we'll get you some too.
Yeah, that'd
That's
be
great.
awesome. A swag exchange.
Swag exchange. They're pretty common these days, I hear.
Yeah. Your love for cars.
Yeah.
Passion for it. Let's talk about LaneX. Talk to our guests about LaneX.
So LaneX is an auto auction. It's online, right?
Mhm.
And so we have live auctioneers. It's basically a virtual auction, right? And so in the traditional sense of an auction, typically a seller, like say a Hertz or a GM Financial, will send cars to an auction. They'll send a rep there from the company to represent those vehicles at that auction. And typically, I'll give you an example. There's an auction in Dallas that's 27 auction lanes, 5,000 cars, and it starts at 9:30 and it's over by 1. Right?
Yeah.
It's that quick. So a car in a traditional sense sells every 60 seconds, right? In a traditional auction with a live auctioneer and a live rep. And so we've taken that concept and made it virtual, right? So the car doesn't go to the auction anymore. We send out a guy to do a 360 image of the vehicle, interior, exterior.
Yeah.
Do a condition report, and then we take that script of that 360 and we run that through what they call a simulcast. So a buyer can log in and see those pictures of that, the 360s of those vehicles from the comfort of their own home or office.
Yeah.
They don't have to travel to an auction anymore.
Yeah.
And our fees are pretty low. We have a $100 sell fee, like a $200 buy fee, and it's flat, right? So in the traditional sense, it's on a sliding scale at that physical location like I just talked about. And so if I buy an $80,000 car, my buy fee is like $900 to $1,000.
Yeah.
And I have to transport it back. And then if I buy a $60,000 car, my buy fee is like $800, $600, somewhere around there.
Wow.
And then transport it back, right?
Yeah.
Then recondition it. And so by the time it gets to the front lot of a dealership, the margin on the front end of what they pay for that vehicle is gone, right? And so they probably average $100, $200. So when you go into a dealership and say you want to make a deal, like there's not a lot of room in those cars.
Yeah.
And so that's really what really birthed LaneX. It was like, hey, let's give margin back to these dealers. Let's let them be viable, in a sense, on the used car side, because there's a huge need for used cars, right?
Yeah.
The manufacturers aren't making as much anymore, or the new cars aren't in volume like they used to back in the day.
Right.
And now, so used cars are a big thing.
Yeah, because you talk about used cars. I've never bought a brand new car. So I'm always
I will never buy a
used
brand new
cars.
car,
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that if you want to, because my
Right.
parents they buy brand new cars.
Right.
But it's just like I just can't bring myself to it.
Right, because you lose 30% on
Right.
those back wheels
Yeah.
roll off the lot. So,
Yeah.
the depreciation is pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You talked about your website, and so I got a preview because you sent me a link,
Right.
and you talked about inside, outside, and I actually did the 360 on the outside, and I clicked on, I think it was a passenger side of an Audi, and from the picture itself, if you're just looking at it, you can't see anything, but once you click the crosshairs, I zoomed in, and you could actually just see a scratch, almost like a scuff mark.
Correct.
That's how detailed.
Yeah, and you can
this
kind of toggle
is.
back and forth.
Yeah.
Got to see the
So
extent of the
amazing.
damage. Yeah.
So who takes these pictures? And
So we'll
how does
have
this
like
work?
in a traditional sense, in a traditional auction, you have what you call an outside coordinator that's attached to an account, right?
Yeah.
And that outside coordinator goes out and takes those pictures. And typically, like what we have in the current state is a PDF and like 8 grainy pictures of the car from 4 angles. And,
Yeah.
a picture of the dash, and it's just you really can't tell from a buyer's perspective like what's going on with that vehicle.
Yeah.
And so we'll be the first auction to do 360s at scale, right?
Wow.
Like all of our cars will be in 360 images inside and out. We're actually wrapping a condition report on the vehicle, right? A gradable condition report. And so that right panel, that quarter panel, will have its own grade as every panel on the car vehicle will. And it'll average out to a complete grade in that 360. And so the car itself will be the condition report.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so any damage will be recorded. So like that scuff on that door, would make it from a 5.0 to a 4.2, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And allows the buyer to back up for damage and recon.
Yeah.
And so...
And so this,
go ahead.
Oh, this is for auctioneers, right? I mean,
no, it's just for buyers.
Just buyers only. Okay.
Yeah. So if I'm logging into my auction, I'm buying a car. I want to look at what do I have to back up for, right? To determine, what I have to do in my shop, right? And so that scuff that you saw in that car will just buff out.
Yeah. And you talked about the time frame for auctioneers from like 9:30 to 1 o'clock, and they're moving thousands and thousands of cars.
Yeah, it's definitely an art.
Yeah, it definitely is an art. I mean, it's visual communication, which is nonverbal, and then it's you're on the computer. And how do you envision this LaneX taking off?
Yeah, definitely. And so we're rolling out a concept that's never really been done in the auction world, and it's called a super regional auction, right? This kind of exists in other auctions, but not to this degree. And so we'll start off in the state of Texas. And every surrounding state around Texas will run cars into like a super regional auction, right? And we can because we can go capture those images of that vehicle, and that car can stay there. And then say in a car in Nebraska or Missouri or Kansas or New Mexico, we can take that car and run it into one lane depending on what that account is.
Oh, wow.
So we can take all their cars and put them in one lane. When I was in remarketing, I sold cars all over the country. I sold cars online. And with this account that I had or was working with, we'd have 40 cars in Austin, 20 in Dallas, 100 in Houston.
Yeah.
And so you only have that many buyers coming for that amount of vehicles in those locations, right? So I can take all those cars, or LaneX can take all those cars and put them in one lane, right? And therefore you increase your buyer to car ratio. Yeah. This is what you want. You want as many buyers in there as possible for the cars that you have. Yeah.
I see. So then that's how LaneX, the name, was kind of, you came into it.
Yeah, it's an auction lane, but there's no lanes called LaneX.
Right.
Typically auctions in the traditional sense will number them 1, 2, 3, 4, or A, B, C, D. And so I'm just going to go off on the fringe there and call it LaneX. Yeah.
Wow. And so then you're making this a virtual thing where the auctioneers could go and look on your site and look at all these cars and it's like, I want this car. And then they would get trailered to that super regional hub, or?
Yeah, so they wouldn't get trailered there at all.
Oh, they wouldn't?
No, the car stays where it's at. It's the actual buyer that goes in for like a dealership, right? Buyer for a dealership or whoever buys cars for front lots all across the country. Typically, a dealership has a buyer on staff that sources vehicles for the used side, right? Because obviously it's profitable for them to do that. But the car stays where it's at. We're just using the 360 script like you saw. And we're taking that and we're pushing that into a player that the buyer then logs into and can preview those vehicles, add them to their buy list. Day before the auction, they can go back in and preview those vehicles, add whatever else has been added. And then when the auction starts, they have their run list. They put whatever they want to pay for the vehicle on there based on analytics, and based on what, so a Ford dealer would be obviously sourcing Fords. And so if we had Fords in our auction, they would be, trying to get those on their buy list and buy those cars. Yeah.
Wow. So when they go and do this, they have their playlist. These dealers are looking at these cars.
Right.
And they're like, I want 10 cars, these 10 cars, and they're from different parts of the United States.
Correct, yep.
So what happens from there?
And so we basically remove the transportation from one side of the process, right?
Okay.
So as the car stays where it's at, it only gets transported once. And hopefully if we can scale to a large degree, we can kind of reduce carbon emissions. Yeah. Because obviously that's a big deal in our time these days. But yeah, so it stays where it's at. And the buyer would understand where it's at. Once they buy the car, they get what we call a bill of sale and a gate pass, right?
Okay.
So once they paid for it, they'll give that gate pass to a transporter. The transporter will transport it back from there to their lot.
Oh, man. And then that's where they would sell that car.
Yeah,
I would go in and buy it.
Yeah, if they need like tires or a windshield, they've obviously backed up the value of that vehicle.
That's awesome. So what's your background? Obviously, you have a huge passion for cars. So what's your background like? How did you get to where you are? What was that mindset like for you?
Yeah, I've always just loved cars, just a guy's guy in that sense, Yeah. When I was like 8 years old, my mom had this British Green MG, and she gave it to me at 8, but obviously couldn't drive it. Yeah. So But I would just get into it and, obviously think that I was in a race, pretending I was in a race with this MG, which, has like, I think 100 horsepower or whatever.
Yeah.
It would leave cars today would just leave it in the dust. but yeah, it's kind of like just led into the passion for vehicles, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in 2006, I started with a company called CarMax, which is a national brand.
Okay.
I was there for almost 8 years, and it was a really good foundational learning tool. Just the training and the mentorship that you got within that department of purchasing at CarMax was pretty cool. So we traveled to auctions, we'd run our own auction, we'd appraise vehicles. I think I did over 11,000 appraisals during my time there. And I was driving every car a mile, making sure the transmission shifted properly, the odometer turned, there's no engine noises, then giving them an offer good for 7 days, right?
Yeah.
And then from there, I went to Hertz, and I was in new vehicle purchasing, and was tasked with processing 3,000 vehicles a month for the fleet, to supplement the fleet.
Golly,
right? Yeah. And so we would allocate those cars out to all the rental locations.
Yeah.
And then I went over to remarketing in Hertz and sold around 3,000 cars a month
Yeah.
online in an auction called TRA and another one called Copart.
Mm-hmm.
And those are cars that were just damaged, from the fleet. And they could be T-boned or even on a pallet. They just burned out. So I'd sell those vehicles. And that was kind of a cool experience because you'd have a guy in Vietnam bidding on a guy in Kansas.
Wow.
For this car, right? And this, so you can imagine the volume at 3,000 cars a month.
Yeah.
And just that going on all the time. And then I went back over to new vehicle purchasing and was over a team that ordered the entire fleet.
Mm-hmm.
So 500,000 cars a year and allocated out to the locations in the United States, as well as Canada and Puerto Rico.
Wow.
And that department got outsourced to India.
Yeah.
And so I became a remarketing rep and with a company called Bridgecrest, which is like the financial arm of Drive Time and Carvana.
Mm-hmm.
We travel to auctions all over the country, sell cars in that traditional sense we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And I was on a plane for like 2 years in a row. My wife's like, that's enough. I think your daughter even knows you anymore. And so I got off the plane and I went to a group called Joe Cooper, which is here locally.
Mm-hmm.
I was their director of vehicle acquisitions, bought cars for their 8 locations.
Wow.
From auctions all over the country.
Wow.
And I had this, epiphany. Just like, man, I should start my own auction. I think I had the experience, and here we are.
Sounds like one of those defining moments.
Definitely, no, it was a defining moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you think that would be one of your biggest defining moments in your life so far? Is that epiphany that you had, like, your wife's like, "Oh man, you're traveling too much. Your daughter doesn't even recognize you."
Yep.
Or quote unquote, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so but then the epiphany kind of led into the need, right?
Yeah.
And so that need was like, wow, these auctions are just getting huger and bigger, and the dealer's really suffering as a result. So now why don't we create a fair playground, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everybody can be profitable and everybody can, make money on the front end.
Yeah, win-win situation.
Yeah, definitely.
Where you're not you, but just other people aren't putting other people out of business and charging the end consumer, which would be me,
right,
an arm and a leg for a used car, which like someone else could sell that for a reasonable price too.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a duopoly in the market with 2 larger auctions out there, right, that kind of have all the market share, right? Then you have a lot of independents. You have a large independent group too that has a part of the market share. But as a buyer, like you want to be able to source vehicles anywhere you can, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but that's the only places you can go. Yeah. Right. So that's just another avenue for them to source vehicles.
Yeah.
Yeah, at a lower price, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What's a misconception you think as for a dealer, just being a salesman in a car dealership? What's a misconception about that?
About sales guys?
Yeah, about sales guys.
Yeah, so those guys are, they're all commission, right?
Yeah.
And so they're trying to kill themselves to just get the sale. And so they just go out of their way. There are some shady practices out there as far as sales goes.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard stories of, dealers throwing keys on top of the roof, not letting you leave, those type of things, right? Yeah.
Wow.
There's some pretty crazy stories out there. But yeah, I mean, I guess a misconception is those guys, that sale is really going to feed their family and, keep them on the road and getting to work, things like that. So, yeah. A lot of respect for those guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would think it's pretty tough. It's pretty stressful.
It is, yeah. I mean, sales, I think sales is an art, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you either have it or you don't, right? And I think a lot of people find that out the hard way in car sales. I've never really been on a part of that side of the business, but I've interacted with a lot of sales guys, and you either have it or you don't. Right? Yeah, you're either going to sell 40 cars this month or you're not.
Yeah, that's
or you're going to
true.
sell 5. Right?
Yeah,
and the reason is because you sold 5 because you just don't have it. Right?
Yeah,
so it's an art.
If you were to take your LaneX and let's qualify this as a piece of art.
Yeah.
How would you paint this picture in about 5 years?
For LaneX,
Yeah.
like down the road 5 years.
Yeah.
And so hopefully we've mimicked the super regional auction in other parts of the country.
Uh-huh.
So if like you take Florida, for example, which is a huge area for cars as well.
Yeah.
Rental locations, travel, tourism.
Yeah.
And so, and then, take the other states around it, like Atlanta, which is a huge market as well, North and South Carolina, Louisiana, and push, create the same concept that we're doing here. So at the end of the year, maybe 2 years, I hope to be selling 8,000 to 10,000 cars a week, to dealers all over the country. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's put this art to work. My name is Wong Lam, and I've got this huge auction block in South Carolina, and I've got North Carolina, Georgia, the Southeastern Conference.
Yeah. The SEC.
Right, the SEC.
Yeah, which I'm a big fan of.
Yeah.
Not a big fan. Yeah.
Me neither.
Yeah.
But I've got this SEC of cars.
Yeah.
And you're from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And so how would you approach me and say, hey, man, I think I can help you out?
Yeah, definitely. And so in some instances, I mean, the sale fee is $100, right?
Okay.
And so that's really nothing in comparison to
Right.
the actual, what they charge you at a traditional auction. And so, yeah, it's just $100, and so what do you have to lose, right? Your car's
Mhm.
don't have to go. I mean, you have the security of that. You don't have to pay for the transportation to get there. You don't have to be upsold on recon when you get it to the auction, because a lot of sellers will like put tires on it or put a windshield in it. And the thought process of getting more money out of the vehicle when it crosses the auction block, right?
Yeah.
And so you can do that yourself at a lower cost. And so, I mean, why wouldn't you do it, right?
Yeah.
On the buyer side, the buy fee's flat. There's no more sliding scale fees. That you have to do a lot of math. A lot of buyers love math, but if you don't have to do math, then have more power to you, right?
Yeah.
So if it's just $200, right? I mean, you can factor in your transportation, you can factor in your recon, and then you can have a better understanding what your margin is going to be on that front lot of that vehicle, right? It's just flat.
Yeah.
So if I got $800 here, $600 there, $400 here, your overall average is kind of harder to kind of make out.
Right. So it's a flat fee. It's simple. I can use my brain power towards something else instead of computing all these numbers.
Yeah, definitely.
Does it make sense to me? Does it make sense for us to buy all these cars?
Right.
Wow. That's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of cars, you talked about your MG your mom gave you. Was it convertible or no?
Yeah, it's convertible.
Okay.
Yeah, it's British Racing Green.
Yeah.
Tan interior.
Yeah. So you went from that. What's your favorite car?
So my favorite car is Toyota Land Cruisers.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything really to do with Toyota, right? Whether it be Tacomas, whether it be FJs. I've had FJs. I've owned a lot of Land Cruisers. And so, yeah, that's my favorite car by far. And just for the fact of the utility of it, to be able to go anywhere, those things last forever.
Yeah, it's a very reliable car.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah. What's your second favorite?
My second favorite, I'd have to say probably a BMW M3 with a competition package.
Man.
Yeah, it gives you the bigger wheels, the
Yeah.
carbon fiber in the interior, carbon fiber roof.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have an M4 now.
Yeah, they do.
Have you seen those?
Yeah, I have. Yep. Yeah. The M3, man, if you just drive in that thing, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about Ben that drives him? So what habits do you have in the mornings? Because I walk into this building and you said it's 1 million square feet.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And your office and it's everything is just so put together too.
Right.
This is nice. I mean, this is very intentional where we are
Correct.
and where you are.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of your habits?
Yeah. So I'm up late or I go to bed late and I'm up early every day. I'm always constantly doing research just on the industry itself, right? Not necessarily to gain an advantage, but just have an understanding of how it all works.
Yeah.
Because it's constantly changing. Over the years, it's a lot different than when I started in 2006 to 2020, right? A lot of different concepts, a lot of different ways to do business, right? So I just kind of, do a lot of research. I obviously get up and just try to have quiet time and just my thoughts for the day. And I'll probably do a devotion sometimes as well.
That's awesome.
And then get to work and hit the ground running,
Yeah.
Yeah. Cars aren't going to sell themselves, so got to make it happen, right?
Someone's got to make it happen.
Yeah, exactly.
You're the artist, so.
Well, let's see. Yeah.
What do you wish some people would ask? Maybe a couple questions, but no one really ever asked.
I don't know, really. Just about the industry itself, or just
industry
anything?
Or personal life?
Yeah, I don't know. What drives you? That's a good question. I think a lot of people don't take the time to really understand other individuals, and so to kind of understand where their background is, or where they came from, is a big thing. And we talked about this before, but like cars allows for those conversations to happen, right?
Yeah.
I don't care what nationality you are,
Yeah.
where you are in life.
Yep.
You've had a car, you've owned a car, you probably have an idea about cars,
Yeah.
and then maybe you're passionate about them, right?
Yeah.
And that opens a dialogue and conversation,
Yeah.
and that just surpasses everything. The world itself that we live in today just kind of fades away, and you're just talking about, a 4.5 liter inline six to take exports of oil, and it'll last forever. You can go 300,000 miles in it, or hey, this thing has solid front and rear axles. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Things like that you can talk about and have those conversations. So
Yeah.
I really enjoy that about this business.
That's awesome, because when you're talking about that, it makes me think of my Jeep Wrangler days.
Yeah.
Prior to 2006 and going back, they had the inline six motor.
Yeah, which is an amazing motor.
Yeah. And then they went to the minivan, because I had a 2008 four-door Jeep Wrangler Sahara jacked up.
Yeah.
But I had to chip it out. I had to mod it out a little bit to get the the power I needed.
Yeah. Yeah, you can actually redo the gears too. And the
Yeah.
back and the rear.
I did.
Yeah, but it's basically a minivan engine. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's because of emissions, right? They had to go away from
Right.
inline sixes. But
Yeah.
talk about an engine. It's just amazing. They can figure out the inlines with emissions. It's a pretty durable engine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the IS300 back in 2001, 2002, they had an inline six motor too. So yeah, we can talk about cars all day. I love cars.
Exactly. But you see what I'm saying? Like, it just opens that dialogue and the
I love
conversation.
it. Yeah.
How many cars you've owned? What was your favorite car? Like, for instance, I had an FJ Cruiser, right? That I lifted, put a 3-inch toy tech lift on it.
Nice.
I put white LaneX all the way around it, so when you're going on trails, it doesn't just scratch your car up a lot, right?
Yep.
Had some rocker panels on it, faded over rocks. But I had to sell it because we had kids. And we had to get a minivan, so we got a Honda Odyssey. So I still reflect back on that car. It's like, wow, it's just a tank. I go off roading, just whatever. But really had to make the sacrifice to get a minivan, right?
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Because it brings back to the movie that Fast and Furious. I can't remember which one it was, but it was when Paul Walker was still alive, and they had him revving up this car, and it sounded like he was about to get after it, but he just pulled up to the stop, let his kid out because he was in a minivan.
Right.
I think it's probably an Odyssey.
Yeah.
Too, but
that's what we had too. Yeah. Honda Odyssey. Yeah. Yeah, you can go through all Edmond. It's probably like 1,000 Honda Odysseys or some sort of minivan. Right? They're just practical. You just can't get away from the practicality of its use, right? When you have kids. So.
Are you going to mod it out? Or
No, we already sold that. So,
oh, yeah.
My wife didn't really enjoy it, or the fact that you had to be in a minivan.
Yeah. But I'm getting a kick out of this. This is awesome. This is great. You seem so laid back.
Oh, thanks.
You appear very laid back. In every conversation we have, you're really laid back. You're really enthusiastic. Does anything ever phase you, tick you off?
Yeah, I mean, I try not to let it tick me off, if you will. I'm really a proponent of emotional intelligence and how my interactions impact others, right?
Yeah.
And so I learned that at CarMax. We all had this book, Emotional Intelligence, and we took a test. I think you're probably familiar with it. And I was like a 50. So I was just horrible to everybody around me and had no idea I was horrible to everybody. I thought, everybody should just line up and do what I say, right?
Yeah.
But obviously that concept didn't work. And so, and it's really just eye-opening to see like where I was at versus where I could be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I took a test again, I scored in triple digits.
Yeah.
And I was pretty happy with myself from the fact. But, obviously you can take that tool, you can apply it in a lot of different places.
Yeah.
I can freak out about stuff, but really, what's the end game of freaking out? Like, what benefit does it bring me, to emotionally scar someone?
Yeah.
Or in a situation or anything like that, because really, you're not getting to the end goal, right?
Yeah.
You're just not, and so you're really just, if you're talking about driving off road, you're just hitting bumps and rocks. You're just not getting to the end goal, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and that was in 2006.
You what?
2006 CarMax. You took that test. It's only 14 years removed. And,
only, yeah.
Oh, that growth.
Yeah.
Mindset that you appear to have had from then to now, I would say it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously you'd like to say, hey, I went through emotional intelligence. I use it every day, but obviously, we're all human, right?
Yeah.
And 100%. So, I mean, being human, obviously you have to go back and relearn some things and, and put forth the effort and understanding, It's easy not to, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about going back. If you had to go back 5 years ago, what was something that you really firmly believed in, and then you fast forward back to today? Is your belief just as stronger, or not as strong?
Yeah, definitely. I think in those roles that I've gone through, and being over individuals in their careers, right? I think one of the things I really learned, and I really put in use again today, is just how do you want to receive feedback? How do you want to be? How do you want to learn? How do you learn? Asking those questions, those individuals really allowed me to learn and grow because everybody's different, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're in charge of a group of, say, 10 or 15 people, everybody's different, right?
Yeah.
And so then applying, how, because I always start out asking the individual, like, how do you like to receive feedback, both positive and negative, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that really opens a door to that individual saying, well, hey, this guy really cares about how I want to receive feedback.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to light me up in a room of people, right? If I don't want him to, right?
Right.
Or he's going to pull me aside and say, hey, listen, when you did that, this is the result of what's going to happen now.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's work on that. Just they appreciate that. It just gets you the foot in the door, if you will, of that individual, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And then obviously you're able to coach and and grow with them, throughout their career. And so I was able to start doing that 5 years ago, and I've really been trying to kind of hone that skill with individuals to help them understand. Like, listen, this is maybe it's your last stop here, and this is what you're gonna do for 20 years.
Yeah.
But think about that. Like, what do you want to do? And how are you going to get there? And what are the goals and action plans you're going to put in place to be successful?
Yeah.
And so it's one of the things I love. It's just other people, and helping them to be the best they can be.
How do you like to get feedback? Do you like someone to call you on public or private?
Public, yeah. Just light me up.
Really?
That's the way I'm going to learn. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Did I do that wrong? Like, and how can I make it better?
Yeah.
Because I think really you can go into that situation in two different ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can blow up and let the emotion of that really kind of dictate how you're going to go forward. Or you can have the mindset of like, well, I'm going to internalize this, and I want to, how can I be better, right?
Yeah.
In that scenario. And so if you have that, the second attitude, obviously you're going to go a lot farther than the other emotional portion of it, right?
Yeah, for sure. But, yeah, playing back to my sports days, I didn't mind getting called out publicly to a certain extent, but I'm more of a private person. So if you're going to give me feedback, whether it's positive or negative, just come talk to me and shut the door and let's talk about this.
Right.
The older I get, but back in the day, I was like, yeah, man, come on, coach, give it to me.
Right.
Give it to me raw.
Mm-hmm. How can I be better?
Yeah.
That's really what you ask yourself. If you're not asking yourself how it can be better, then there's obviously an issue there.
Yeah.
Right? You just need to, get to that point to where you want to learn how to be better, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're sitting in my chair interviewing yourself, what are a couple questions you asked yourself?
What are you doing, right? Can you do this, right? There's a lot of doubt that kind of creeps in, right?
Yeah.
When you're starting something new. Because before I was always a part of something that somebody else was in charge or took the heat for or took the hit on, right? So now that's me, right? And so I'm trying to, walk through those different scenarios and try to be proactive as I can and try to meet those head on versus somebody else took that hit, before, right? And there's other companies. And so, so I just ask myself, hey, what are you doing? And that answer would be, let's meet everything head on. Take it with a grain of salt, learn, and move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I met your staff. You got a couple people working for you.
Definitely.
Their personalities, I'm sure, are probably different from even yours.
Yeah, what's cool about the people I've hired, I've worked with in other companies that I've worked with.
Oh, man.
So Josh that you met, I worked with at CarMax. And Katasha I worked with at Hertz. And my other outside coordinators when I was an outside remarketing rep. He was my outside coordinator at Odessa when I'd go there and have cars. And so,
That's awesome. So you're like a head coach, and then you went and recruited.
Yeah.
You scattered the talent, if you will.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Bring them on and grow together.
Yeah. Yeah. One suggestion I would have for anybody that's sourcing talent is obviously, look at people that you've worked with before and try to pull out the best qualities that they had and how that would fit with you and what you're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
And so all these individuals, have that aspect to them. Like I enjoyed working with them and stuff. But even, you can really kind of go down a bad road in the sense of you may think this individual has qualities that you need, but it may not be the case.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to hire on the spot for the fact that we're a startup, but really just kind of stepping back and taking the time and asking those questions that need to be asked.
Yeah. When you go through your day, because is your day structured 9 to 5 or is it just?
It hasn't been. So I've been working from home until now. Yeah. And so that's a totally different structure. So I'm there with my kids. My kids are coming up to me. Yeah. And I just don't have that anymore.
Right.
So because we're working obviously in an office now, but I have to get back to that. And it's been kind of hard. Yeah, to be honest.
Yeah. When things aren't going well for you, how do you, I guess, refocus yourself? Because you're the big coach here. You're the
definitely
CEO. Yeah. Right.
And so what I do is just look at I try to take a 30,000 foot view of the situation, right? And try to gain all the understandings of where I failed and what was successful, right? And I try to pull out what the things were successful and then learn from the things that failed, right? And so that's I kind of approach things in general, just to kind of understand, what didn't work and where do we need to go? How to fix the things that don't work, and then maybe maximizing the things that did work in other areas. And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. You're on social media too.
Correct.
So this is going to lead to LinkedIn, Twitter, and then Instagram, because I follow
And
you on all
Facebook,
those platforms. Oh, and Facebook, yeah. So I follow you on all these platforms, and I'm sure you see it. There's negative stuff out there. How
Correct.
do you deal with negativity?
Block it. Yeah. Just block it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we have LaneX at bid, lanex.bid on Twitter. And so I try to keep it, when I started that account, just keep it completely automotive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's really what I see in my timeline.
Mm-hmm.
It's just automotive stuff. So just push out the other stuff because I don't need to see that.
Yeah, because when I started following you, I guess 2020, what I would call was trolling a little bit before I started following you. And it's like I would see all these posts about cars. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then there's a white, I think it's Land Cruiser, a Japanese one.
Mm-hmm. Like a mega cruiser?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it here, obviously.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that was a vehicle that was built to compete with the Hummer, and it's for the Japanese military.
Mm-hmm.
And man, that car is amazing.
Yeah.
But you can now import them in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can get one?
I don't know. Possibly. Depends on how things go. I do want one. Yeah, I don't know if it'll fit in my garage. It's so big.
It's okay. You can leave it outside. I mean, people need to see that.
True story. Yeah, I agree. Definitely.
And then you need to drive it up here, and people need to see it.
Yeah, definitely. There's only maybe a couple in the United States.
Oh,
okay. Fully restored ones. Like one's in a Toyota museum.
Oh,
I can't remember where, but it's here somewhere in the United States. Yeah. Pretty cool. I'll watch it on YouTube.
Yeah. Man, that is. Yeah, I'd love to have one.
Yeah.
If I could have one, I'd drive it around town all day.
Definitely.
It wouldn't be in a museum.
Yeah, I just got one from my buddy the other day, maybe a couple months back, but it's an FJ40. Like the old Jeep looking one.
Yeah.
The jumper seats in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Has a hard top and a soft top.
Yeah.
He's currently restoring it, but loves it. Yeah.
Those things, they're pretty
cool.
Sweet when you restore them fully and they have the old school look, but with just
some modern
features. Yeah,
modern features. You're right.
Man, so what did your wife drive then?
She drives a Land Cruiser.
Okay.
Yep.
And you drive a Land Cruiser too?
Correct. Yeah.
So 2 Land Cruisers.
Correct. Yeah.
Man.
So I never buy a new one. They're like 80,000 brand new. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But we have an 03 and she has an 04 100 series Land Cruiser.
Man.
Yeah.
Enough horsepower to get yourself a
they're V8s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Haul some ponies around.
Yeah, I guess you could. Yeah. Yeah, if you needed to. Yeah. My daughter would like that, right?
Yeah, for sure, man. Where do you think you would regret not doing in 5 years if you don't do it? What would you think you'd regret doing or not doing?
Yeah, it's not the scale of it all. Yeah. Obviously we want to scale to a point to where we're the premier use case for buyers and sellers out there to understand, like, hey, this is a fair marketplace. This is a place where you're going to come and not get ghost bidded in the auction lanes. And, as far as you step up to the plate, put your best effort forward, you're going to buy a car.
Yeah.
And you're going to have a lower fee as a result.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What I see in this building and in your office and what I hear about when you talk, it's obviously it's art. However, it's a lot of technology.
Correct. Yeah.
And the destination of, let's say, Seattle sounds like a very technical, or a lot of technology there, or Silicon Valley, or Austin, Texas.
Right.
You're here in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, definitely.
Sooner Nation,
boomer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, when I first started, it was a point of pride, right? To be like, hey, this isn't in Seattle. This isn't in New York or LA or places like that are hubs of technology. So this is coming out of Oklahoma, and so it's pretty cool. I'm from Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
All my family from like the land run days are from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So we're pretty invested in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of cool to say that, hey, this is coming out of Oklahoma, this technology, in order to buy cars at auction. Right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
I love it.
Yeah.
The culture in Oklahoma, I feel like everyone's welcoming, everyone's really nice and supportive and positive. How do you feed off of that culture to cultivate your culture here with LaneX? Yeah,
so you could say that culture is pretty much nice to everybody, right? Mm-hmm. There's an underlying attitude of, let's all get to work and get it done, right? Help the other person up.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's another point of pride as well, just about Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And taking that attitude and, infusing it into what our company does when we're interacting with other people from other parts of the country, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, that is cool. I think you hit it on the head. It's like, let's get to work and get it done. And how can we help bring others up while we're doing that, and not just stepping on someone and leaving them behind. Right. Mm-hmm. That's the sense I get just talking to you and the energy I feel when we get to talk. And even through tweets and texts, I feel a good presence every time we do exchange a text or two.
Well, great. If I don't do that, let me know.
Oh yeah, and I have to tell you, man, I definitely appreciate the fact that we were supposed to schedule this podcast about 2-3 weeks ago, and then I had some personal things come up, and you're more than willing to reschedule, and I definitely appreciate that, man. I think that helps me a lot too. So,
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I mean, hats off to you on that.
No, I appreciate the time and being able to be on the podcast. This is pretty awesome. I've never been on a podcast, so
Oh yeah,
yeah, this is my first shot at things. So hopefully I can get to come back on.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
We'll do a follow up here in a few months, maybe towards the end of this year, and kind of see how this artwork is taking shape with the colors and everything else.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. A few more questions about your personal life. Like, how do you enjoy life?
Yeah, so right now I have an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old,
Right.
so it's basically chasing kids, to events and working. Yeah, that's basically my life right there. I don't think I've been to a movie in 8 years, like to a physical location to watch a movie.
Oh man,
yeah. And so obviously 'cause that takes a backseat to, the priority of kids. And so, but yeah, just living life, loving life, and that's just how everything's wound into what I do here, and obviously it's all for them and making sure they succeed as well in life.
Yeah. How did you get your wife's buy-in to start this?
Yeah, that wasn't easy, right? So I had to use a lot of my passion in order to get that across, right? And so it's a huge step. It's a step of faith, obviously, a big leap, if you will, in order to jump out. And I first started in kind of a different direction, right? I first started with virtual reality and having auctions in VR and have a POC for that. And I was just thinking, man, I don't know if the industry's ready for that, to put on a pair of goggles and buy cars in it. But it is possible. I just want to let everybody know it's possible.
Okay.
Yeah, it can happen. And so, and that's something we'll probably bring on later down the road.
Wow.
But just be able to adjust and pivot to kind of what we're doing now, opposed to that, has been a huge learning curve. And obviously, for everybody involved, a little stressful. But we've gotten there and overcome, those mountains, if you will, that we have to climb.
Yeah.
So,
what your coworkers, your colleagues that you have, and I feel like they're probably free to bring up their ideas and thoughts about LaneX too.
Definitely.
So, is there something you could share about maybe one of them? A point of like, hey, Ben, I think we can do this a little differently, right? I think we can do this.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll just use Josh as an example. We're doing at CarMax, and he was in sales and was in purchasing. With us at a later time, but going back to that art of the sale, right? The guy can just sell anything, right? He's amazing. Like I wish I had that, or I admire that in him, right? And his willingness just to get the job done, right? But I'm totally open. It's an open forum, in our company to discuss those things and to bring up things that might work that maybe I didn't have an idea for, which is pretty rare. Just kidding. But yeah, so he's great. I mean, he has suggestions all the time, and I love hearing everybody's suggestions.
Yeah.
And then Katasha, she's she worked with her at Hertz, and they would just bring boxes of titles up to her, and like she did like 15,000 titles or something like that, just executing them. And so
wow,
she has a great, unique, and I can't do that, and so she has a great skill set. She's just an amazing person.
Yeah, that's awesome. You brought up the word executing. That's one of my favorite words because that's business. I mean, if you can't execute or deliver, you're not gonna be successable. So.
Yeah, definally. Yeah, definitely. I like to put that in the realm of how can I make you execute and be successful, right?
Ooh.
Like how can we coach that into you, like your everyday?
I like it.
That's really a challenge too in itself, which I love to take on.
Yeah. You read a lot?
I do read a lot. More online now versus in books, but yeah, I read like we talked about emotional intelligence, anything on business I like to read about as well. Because obviously I didn't come from that background. I came from just the industry itself and, understanding how it works and applying, kind of new ways to kind of take it on. So
if you could look at your life right now and then think about a book or an article, something you read, what would be the article or what would be a book or the chapter from a book?
Yeah, that's tough, man. Kind of on the spot here. You said you wouldn't put me on the spot. Yeah. Man, I have to think about that. Obviously, articles that deal with automotive industry stuff is great. When this concept, and I didn't obviously start the concept of a virtual lane, but when that started out, that really intrigued me. Like how I could be in an auction lane and buy cars in Michigan versus, the cars aren't here. I thought that was a really cool concept.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of inspired me to kind of, relate that to what we're doing now, but in a different way.
Yeah. What's been Well, I guess the question is, when was the last time you challenged yourself with doing something you'd never done?
Yeah, I do that every
What was
day.
the outcome?
Yeah, yeah.
Ah, I love it.
It's because I'm doing something I've never done every day.
I
right?
love it.
Yeah. Whether it's talking to vendors, whether it's talking to people in the industry. The industry itself, it's a little tough in the sense that they'll try to shut you down. These duopolies I was talking about earlier. If they can shut you down, they will, because obviously you're taking market share from them, and obviously that's something they don't like. Those are some of the challenges you have to overcome every day. And obviously, and gratefully, I have a bunch of connections in the industry and allow me inroads to those individuals.
Yeah,
I won't get shut down.
Yeah, no, I like the attitude. So, do you think going back to 2006, reading emotional intelligence has been like the root of your success so far?
Yeah, it's been a foundational.
Yeah,
foundational in my life. I think that just putting those things into practice is the challenge every day, right? It's one thing to understand something, but if you're not putting it into practice, what's the point, right?
Absolutely.
And so I challenge myself to put those in practice every day, those principles of emotional intelligence, and obviously to coaching. How could I be a better coach to individuals around me? How could I be a better mentor? Or a ninja mentor, if you will.
Yeah.
To where they're not even understanding they're being mentored, but you're coming alongside someone to help them. It's a huge reward, not only for them, but it helps you to kind of learn and grow for the next person that comes in your life.
I love it. Speaking of next person that comes in your life, who would be 3 people that you would love to sit down and talk with on the phone or in person if there's no social media?
Yes, just a broad band.
Anyone.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Denzel Washington.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And just his approach to everything is really cool. You know, he's not about, doing anything halfway, right? He's about getting it done. And it's just his approach to everything is really cool. There's a speech of his that he spoke to a college about, and just telling them, the facts of life, basically. If you do this, you'll be successful. I can't obviously quote it, but obviously you can go look at it. But it's something like, wow, man, this is something kids don't hear today. Coming out of college, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. And 2 other people, let me see. God, it's gonna be hard. 2 other people, I don't know. I'm sure there's a bunch out there that I just can't think of off the top of my head, being on the spot in a podcast. But the Michael Jordan would be one.
Oh,
like
man,
wow, what a great example is that guy. Although he had some challenges and difficulties in his life, which he did, and was obviously public. But you can just kind of see like his never wanting to give up, no matter what. He's put himself on the line. And if you look at that attitude to today's attitude, you kind of just the ultimate respect is there for that.
Yeah.
That willingness just to overcome and be the best that you can be, right?
Yeah.
I like to hang out with Michael Jordan. And maybe Zach Galifianakis. I don't know. He's a funny guy.
That's awesome. I'm with you on all 3. I thought Tiger Woods in there too.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Yeah, when you see an individual, challenged and have to overcome, that's where that mindset of respect just kind of sets in. Like, wow, that's pretty cool. He had the whole world against him, but yet, he overcome and rose to that challenge. Yeah. Tells a lot about a person.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to get a coaching point from you on this podcast. How can I improve this podcast?
Yeah, so obviously I've watched a lot of your podcasts and stuff, and I have to say, I don't know if you need to do podcasts anymore.
Don't do podcasts?
No, I'm joking.
Oh, okay. It's like, well, okay. I mean, if that's
I just
good advice, it's like, I'm
just messing with you now. No, I really love like you attached to me. I love your attitude, man, and your approach. I was thinking about it on the drive over here, just how kind you are.
Oh, thanks.
And just that willingness to be open, to a point of vulnerability is really awesome.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I would just say keep doing what you're doing. If you want to cut out my last comment, I totally understand.
No, we're keeping that in. That's raw. It's fun.
No, I was joking. Yeah, totally. I have a dry sense of humor.
Yeah, I like it.
Kind of catches people off guard sometimes. But yeah, no, I love what you're doing. I mean, there's a million podcasts out there, and you chose to do a podcast, right?
Yeah.
And so that's amazing. So I would just, just be motivated, in every approach that you encounter with individuals, and just remain open, to what they'll tell you.
I appreciate that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's really a good coaching point, is to like just be motivated.
Yeah.
And be open. Because sometimes, man, I'll be honest, it's like, man, I got to go to work today. It's 8 to 6. I got this going on. But that's great advice. Like, I've got to stay motivated. I got to remember why am I doing this?
Exactly, yeah.
And so that's great advice. My wife has actually mentioned something similar to me. Because there's times, man, I'll be honest, I'm like, oh, dude, I'm struggling today.
Yeah. Definitely we all do. I mean,
it's
obviously have to revert back to times of success, times of, when you were motivated,
Mm-hmm.
and understand the principles surrounding that and kind of apply them in your everyday. And, in that certain circumstance, I think it helps.
Yeah. I like that.
And gosh darn it, people like me,
Yeah.
Remember that from Silent Life. It's pretty funny. Yeah.
Well, people do like you, obviously.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you're not out there to try to be liked. You're out there
Right.
focused and motivated to get things done.
No.
And bring people on, they'll help you do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
Yeah, get yourself out there, and if you get rejected, it's okay.
It is. Yeah.
Who else is doing what you're doing?
Yeah,
right
failure.
now, really.
Failure can probably be your best asset in anything. I always tell everybody that. When you fail, it's obviously a learning opportunity. And again, going back to those two choices, you have two choices, right?
Yeah.
You blow up and be emotional about it, and then hurt yourself and your goals, or you can be internalize it and be better, right? And then ask yourself how to be better, right?
I love that
situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of cliche, but I mean, it's really true.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your path forward for you personally, and then of course LaneX?
Definitely. I just want to grow LaneX into something that the country comes to love. Maybe take it to other parts of the world, hopefully.
Yeah.
Because it's not the only place they have auctions. They have auctions overseas as well. I don't really care if we get purchased or bought out or acquired or anything like that. That's not my goal. My goal is to make LaneX the best it can be in this industry.
Mm. Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. How does Ben want to be remembered?
I don't know. I'd like to leave a legacy, right? I think everybody does, but I think everybody's afraid to talk about it, right? What is your legacy, or can I even have a legacy, right? And what is that, right? Obviously, my legacy is to be the best father I can be, the best husband I can be. That's a more important legacy to even this company. Just giving something back to my son and my daughter, and giving something to my wife that's not necessarily monetarily, but something they can use as tools, in their everyday lives and going forward when I'm no longer here, right?
Yeah.
And so that's my main focus.
Yeah.
It's all for them. Right?
Yeah. You talk about giving back. How do you give back? How do you contribute back to society?
Yeah. So through motivation, through coaching, through understanding when people are in places that they don't need to be,
right?
And trying to motivate them out of that hole, if you will. I just kind of give back in that way.
I can see that.
I would love to be able to give back monetarily, futuristically as well. To kind of support podcasts like this.
Yeah.
There's a buddy of mine named Justin Coffey, and I'm calling him out, but he runs a 405 center here locally, and basically he takes volunteers and places them in places to have the most impact, right? In our community. Yeah. And it's just an amazing individual to have that heart to do that, but able to support things like that, to give back to the community
that's awesome.
Would be awesome. And not just for the glory of it, but for the fact that it's a need, right?
Yeah.
It needs to take place.
Yeah. I mean, you're working hard to start something, and if you can make enough money where you can start giving back and impacting other lives, that's huge.
Yeah, definitely. And
wow.
So that's an overarching goal of mine, right? I mean, who doesn't want to be well off? But I mean, at the same time,
for sure,
that's not the overall goal. I have to remind myself of that daily.
Yeah. That's great advice, and that's a good reminder.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the same with me. It's like, man, how much money is enough money?
Exactly.
It's like the value of life and the moments that we're actually sharing right now become priceless, because this is awesome for me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. No, I appreciate the time.
Yeah. How do our listeners and viewers get in touch with you? No cell number, but like Instagram, Twitter.
Yeah, so we're on Instagram at LaneX_auctions. We're on Facebook at LaneX Auctions. Again, I think I said it we're on Twitter at bid, at lanex.bid. And then LinkedIn, we have a page out there as well, just LaneX Auctions. So yeah, you reach out there. We'd love to have you. If you want to follow us, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I retweet your stuff, so we're
good.
There
we go. Yeah. It's good stuff.
Last question for you.
Okay.
Look in the camera. Do you approve this podcast?
I definitely approve this podcast. Yeah.
My name is Wong Lim, and I definitely approve this podcast.
It's great.
Man, thank you so much.
Hey, you bet. Thank you.
This is awesome.
Again for the time.
Wow.